Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is Taige Xhang. He's the CEO of FairyTrail. It's the Nomadic Friends app. Taige, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Really cool to learn about your podcast and to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. I first heard about you. Shout out to the Work, Wealth, and Travel podcast and Nicole Neeks over there. And I saw her post about you guys and her community that I'm a part of. So shout out again. And it just looks really interesting what you're building in terms of a way to connect nomads, and would love to basically hear more about it.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, it's something I'm super passionate about. And I live across the world myself. So, yeah, definitely excited to learn more about kind of all the things that you guys are doing as well. I think it's really cool to like find out about your community and Nicole's community. I'm just starting to kind of uncover this world right now.
The digital nomad world.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been fully remote for the last several years now, but it's really hard to kind of figure out all of like the secrets to nomading. Like I just heard recently that nomads call non-nomads muggles. I don't know if you've heard of that.
The Muggles?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay,
I was
what's
talking to a
this?
nomad, and she said, "Yeah, I was dating a no a muggle back in the day." I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like, what do you mean muggle? She's like, "Oh yeah, someone who can't travel and work remotely."
I love this term. I thought it reminded me of like Mudblood from Hogwarts or something.
Yeah, yeah, but
Harry Potter.
it's really cool. Like I met her through my app actually. I was just chatting with her and yeah, it's just super cool. And like the more people you meet, the more you learn, the more like I think it's all about meeting people. Like I found my my career just by meeting someone. I was working at Apple, and I was in analytics and finance, and I just had a chat with a coworker, and he was like, "Yeah, you should. Yeah, I work in product. You should learn more about that if you like building things." And that's kind of like so. It's for me, it's like all about people. Like.
Okay, and I want to hear exactly what Fairy Trail does in a minute, but are you Canadian?
I am Canadian actually. I lived in Winnipeg and Toronto.
Because I see you went to U of T, University of Toronto, but it
Mhm.
looks like basically as soon as you graduated university, you've just been like full Bay Area or Europe, like you
Yeah.
just left Canada.
Funny story. I mean, I'm, I don't know what to call myself, like a world citizen, or I don't know, or a nomad. I lived in three cities in China before the age of 6. Uh, I I lived in like three places in Winnipeg. I went to three high schools in California. Uh, so yeah, I studied in the UK. I worked in Germany. I went back to the Bay Area for work. So yeah, so I really kind of embrace this nomadic spirit.
Hmm. So what passports do you have?
Right now, it's just two, Canadian American.
There you go. It's a good two.
Yeah,
Okay.
trying to get more, trying to collect them all.
Dual citizen, baby. So I want to know exactly what Fairy Trail does and what the idea is here. I kind of get the problem, which is that like there's a lot of, I guess, solo travelers out there and they probably want to meet people. I guess that's the base problem, but why don't you kind of walk me through the issue that you identified and how you solved it with your app?
Yeah, so it's kind of a problem that I face. I work remotely, and I pretty much just talk to like 5 people every day on Zoom, and that's it. So it's very isolating. and it's hard to make new connections. So this app helps you make new connections, and it also allows you to kind of use your superpower as a nomad or remote worker, in that you can pretty much go anywhere. And sometimes it's just better with the right people. I feel in Chinese culture, and there's this saying that happiness when shared is doubled, and sadness when shared is halved. So I'm a big believer that, yeah,
Mm,
like by connecting with the right people, life and experiences and adventures can be so much better.
I like that phrase.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that phrase.
I mean, China has so many sayings and idioms. It's incredible. It's just one that really resonated with me. Another one, a Chinese idiom, is when you uproot a tree, it dies. When you uproot a man, he lives.
That's
Yeah.
like pretty nomadic, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I
Okay.
love learning about different cultures and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of the some Chinese fun facts.
And so the app, it looks to be purely mobile, just Apple. Like there doesn't seem to be a web app.
Not right now. As we get more um, older folks on the app, we might create a desktop app, because older users have requested a desktop app. But for young folks, they really love being on their phones. So it's not been an issue.
Okay, so mobile first, and it's billed as the world's most popular travel buddy app for remote workers, digital nomads, and van life travelers. So tell me a little bit about, I guess, the penetration. Like, how many users do you have? How many countries are you guys in?
Yeah, we're at about 50K plus users, and looking at our analytics, we're pretty much in every country. We even got two folks in Antarctica, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, we're pretty much everywhere.
Antarctica.
Yeah, and the age range goes from 18 to 70 something. Last time I checked.
And is it kind of like a dating profile?
I mean, we wanted to make it simple, right? I feel that by making it too complicated, people are confused, and just don't have a great experience. I think simple often wins, kind of like, Uber. It's just you push a button and you get a taxi. And so, yeah, we wanted to start off simple. And so with Fairy Trail, what you'll see is you can search for people, and you can say, kind of like where they are. You can search for where they're going. You can search for, are they fully remote, hybrid, or not remote. You can search for, individuals, couples, or families. So it's really
Mhm.
up to you who you want to connect with. Um, and then you will see profiles, and you can send a connect request. And if they accept it, you can start chatting. Very simple, but yeah, sometimes that's kind of what people like.
And is it free? Does it cost money?
So we have a free forever plan after verification, and we also have a silver plan and a gold plan. So that's the current setup. We might change this in the future, but currently it's three plans.
And what do I get if I upgrade?
I think you'll definitely get different features as the app becomes more and more mature. But currently, you can view more profiles. Um, you can so the gold plan, your profile will be seen first currently. So it just allows you to be seen by more people without you actively having to send connect requests. They'll see your profile when they explore, when they search. So it's just convenience basically.
That's awesome. Tell me the story maybe of how it grew.
Um, you mean how it started, or how did we get more and more users?
Yeah, yeah, like kind of how do you get beyond the MVP?
So I built it as a side project initially because I love traveling, and a lot of my friends kept complaining they couldn't find anyone to travel with, so they would just stay at home and watch Netflix. I was like, oh, that's kind of lame. Let's see if we can create a marketplace where you match with other people on adventures, and that's kind of how it started. Um, we grew initially just by posting on Facebook groups. I made like 10 different posts, and we got to like thousands of users that way. And since then, it's been pretty much all organic. Now that I am doing this full time, I started to actually do marketing. Before it was just yeah, people would find it on the app store, and that was pretty much it. Or people would tell their friends about it.
So you said you got your first 1,000 customers from Facebook groups?
Hmm. So there's tons of Facebook groups like, um, digital nomads in um, Mexico City or Lisbon, and I would just go in there and I would post about the app, and sometimes they would let me post, sometimes they wouldn't. And yeah,
Right.
and it would sometimes go viral. Like we get like 100 comments in an hour, and sometimes we get shut down because the post went viral. But so yeah, I made like 10 different posts, and yeah, that's how we got to about 1,000, 2,000 users. No
Yeah, there's
marketing.
so
Like
many
I'm sorry,
groups. I
no
know.
marketing spend.
Yeah. And did you feel like you needed to add value to these groups before you dropped the ad, or just like first post, app promotion?
So I'm not that good at marketing. So I just went in like, hey, I have made this app. Come check it out. It's free. Oh yeah. So by making it free, I think that helps because you're kind of adding value to the community. But once we got to
Definitely.
about 3,000 users, oh man, it was just rough because every day almost I got an email complaining about scammers on our app. So then we had to implement an entrance fee for a while. Actually, we still, well, now we do a verification thing, but before we were doing an entrance fee. Uh, and it was basically, yeah, you pay $3 and then you would be able to use the app for free. Now we call it verification just because people were getting confused about the entrance fee thing. It's like, and people are very used to verification. Like on Twitter, you get verified, and on Instagram, you get verified. So, um, yeah, so that's kind of what we had
Mhm.
to deal with once we got to about 3,000 users.
What did you use to do the authentication stuff? Like I know that Stripe has a product that can scan your passport via the computer, and there's probably some random softwares
Oh,
out
so
there,
we have a
or is it
lot
more
of layers
manual?
of security. We probably have like 11 different layers of fraud detection right now, and we have users reporting it as well. So it's getting stronger and stronger, and we'll add more layers of fraud protection. And yeah, so basically, it's a huge, yeah, it's like a huge, um, like pain point for us that we always have to watch out for, just like fraudsters being on the app.
Mm-hmm. Because now it's free for the base plan, but you just have a whole bunch of protections because there is definitely like a human element to it. But it sounds like you probably have more authentication than LinkedIn at this point.
I don't know what LinkedIn does, but yeah, we definitely have quite a few, and we have 99.99% real users, which is something we're super proud of. Like even without that extra nine, it would be pretty bad user experience. So yeah,
Random question: have you heard of the Palau ID?
no, what is that?
So Palau is a country, off the coast of the Philippines, right? And it's a small country, and so they have created this sort of e-residency program, which maybe you had heard of the Estonia e-residency. You heard of the Estonia one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the details of it, but I have heard. I mean, I don't know the details, but it did sound familiar.
Okay, so anyway, so Estonia was the first country that did an e-residency. It's like you weren't a physical resident or you weren't like a legal resident that could reside there necessarily, but you had a business residency sort of, and you could have a business, and with the business you could get ID, I think you could get ID. And it kind of became a way for people to get access to the European market, in like an easier way to start a business there. And
Hmm.
then Palau, um, kind of was inspired by this, and they created an ID and an e-residency, and basically you could just get a Palau ID just to have kind of like another ID, you know what I mean?
Cool.
And they'll send it to you in the mail, and it's from a sovereign nation, and it's ID that could prove your age or something, or your name, right? If you needed to, I don't know,
Hmm.
sign up for the gym or sign up for different services. And just because you're in the digital nomad space, you might find some of the stuff interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I love learning about like new things and yeah, finding new resources.
What are the biggest cities on the platform?
Whew, city wise, we haven't really looked into the data on that just because the way the app works currently, we're not super focused on having people meet people nearby. There's a lot of great apps that help you do this. Um, we're more for people who are nomadic in that, they could be in like China one day, right? And then within like 12 hours, they're in like, Egypt or like London, right? And it's just, so location has less of a importance. So we actually haven't really looked that much into like, oh, what cities are most people in, because we're actually connecting people more based on who the people are and like on a country level. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, just because of the high mobility of our user base.
But aren't they trying to meet up in certain cities? Like if there's it's like who's in Lisbon type of thing, who's in Buenos Aires type of thing, right?
Maybe it's just something I haven't really delved into because you know, what we found works well is by letting people connect. And once you have a connection, like that's when the plans kind of start. Like I was chatting to one guy and he was saying, "Oh, he's going to Spain for a wedding," and I was like, "Oh, that's super cool! Like, I've never been to a Spanish wedding. Like, yeah, maybe I'll come swing by Spain, right? Like, that'd be super cool." And I'm going to a Nomad festival in Bulgaria, and he's like, "Oh, that's super cool. I've never been to a Nomad festival," and so maybe he'll join me on that festival, right? So it's just completely awesome in that by having connections, that by having conversations, that's where you kind of discover life's kind of most awesome experiences and opportunities.
Okay, so it's not so much location based as who the person is, common interests.
Yeah, or you can also connect based on your current country and where you're headed. For example, you can go on FairyTrail and search like I want to go to India, and just like search everyone else who wants to go to India, and then you can just start chatting with them and be like, oh yeah, like what adventures do you want to do in India, right? They might want to do like some spiritual thing. They might want to do some touristy things, like so. It's all about people. And that's not to say we won't add features in the future that says like, hey, who's nearby, who wants to hang out. But for now, like I think where people get the most value is just connecting with like-minded individuals who love traveling and who love different cultures and who can do it.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So how did you overcome um I think it's called like the trough of despair in startup slang, on the roller coaster, right? So you had kind of it leveled off at, I think you said 3K for a while as you figured out the authentication. And then how did you rocket past that and go from 3K to 50K plus?
I think it's all about the people. Again, it's all about the people, right? Like on the team, I was working on it pretty much by myself, but then as I started getting more traction, I got people who wanted to get involved as kind of like volunteers or potentially like joining the team or co-founders. So that's kind of what got us through. And I think you'll see like some of the best companies and apps are built by like really awesome teams. So I would say that's kind of what is really, driving us forward and like is really exciting. Like, and I'm also very excited because um yeah, like some of the people that joined recently, they're really making a difference. And I can tell you the app will be just really incredible in the coming months because of the new folks we have supporting us or on the team.
Hmm. And so you worked for Walmart and Indeed, both in San Francisco, right?
Right.
And you've gone remote, but the company is still kind of based in San Francisco. Do you think of yourselves in that vein of, Silicon Valley startups?
Um, yeah, definitely. Having worked in SF, having lots of friends there, definitely love kind of the culture of like working hard, dreaming big, and supporting each other. Um, that said, ever since COVID, SF hasn't really been the same. Um, so I also, yeah, I'm quite curious like how it evolves, the whole SF Bay Area. Um, yeah, I think we're kind of also figuring out like our company culture, but at least because I'm kind of from there, the company definitely has a bit of that culture.
Cool. So fully remote team. You're in Europe at the moment, right?
Yeah, I'm nomading around, and yeah, we're fully remote.
Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on USA versus Europe for lifestyle.
So I love both places. I feel that the US is really, really good for career. Just like super innovative companies come out of the US. You can grow and be very successful career wise in the US. Europe, I think the pay isn't as good, but the quality of life is really awesome, right? Just like different cultures. Um, and the food, quality of life, maybe the pace as well. So yeah, I think both places are fantastic.
How do you think about Europe in terms of like walkability and a different lifestyle? Is this kind of your favorite area to nomad?
Yeah, I love being in Europe just because of kind of yeah how livable it is, the quality of life. Um, Also, the time zone is pretty convenient. You can work with U.S. folks, you can work with Asia folks. Um, South America is very good as well. So yeah, yeah, I think the US is great in its own way, though sometimes you feel like you're kind of in a bubble if you stay there too long. So I like to, you know, uh, go on some adventures.
Right, definitely. How have you found your ability to be productive and to team build remote? Because I know there's been a lot of talk in Silicon Valley about return to work. Personally, I think it's kind of leveled off or peaked like the RTO movement. But what's been your some of your strategies to keep productive?
I think if the budget allows, it's fantastic to have like in person, um, like I don't know if it's called like offsites or just like working together, especially for small companies. I know a lot of other startups similar to us. Um, it'll just be like there's a lot of co-living spaces now, which include co-working spaces, and they'll just have the whole team be in one place for a month and work together. So it's really good for building trust and getting that
Hmm.
in-person experience. And then for another month or even 2 months, they might be remote, and then you know so pretty much every quarter spend 1 month working together.
That would be pretty ideal. Probably hard to manage for organizations, but that would be pretty ideal.
Yeah, for big companies that would be very tricky, but yeah, if you're a startup with like 20, 30 people, I think it's possible.
Hey guys, quick break from the podcast to tell you about job stacking. If you're a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Haltza, author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income by implementing his paycheck multiplication layering method. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond 20K a month. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, if you're interested in unleashing your earning potential and doubling your income, then click the link in the description and book a call with Rolf right now. Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about BitRefill. BitRefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. BitRefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. So, Tiger, one thing I wanted to ask you about as a startup guy is your view on this digital nomad expat market in general. You think this is going to be a growing market segment?
Yeah, it's a good question. I definitely think there's a trend. So I feel like it's pretty inevitable, and we're just seeing this, across a longer time horizon. So, for example, if you think about our grandparents' generation, how they tended not to move that much, right? Like they probably mostly
Hmm.
stayed in their own like regions or cities. And
Hmm.
then think about our parents' generation and our generation, and it's like almost everyone's from somewhere else. Like you almost never meet someone's like, yeah, I'm from here and I live here, and everyone's from somewhere else. And I think it's just going to continue to accelerate as there's more jobs that are remote. As there's more of these visas for digital nomads. So yeah, I think it's pretty inevitable. It's just a matter of like how quickly that happens, and people want to like, indeed we have all the like we put out reports all the time about how there's so many people who want remote jobs versus openings. It's yeah, I definitely
Hmm.
think this is a trend that will continue.
What are you seeing in terms of remote job openings versus supply and demand?
Yeah, it's something like 3x higher than the number of remote jobs, if I recall correctly. I mean, and it changes, but yeah, so definitely a lot of demand for remote jobs.
I mean, we can see why, right? We know why. It's obviously much better. Um, Random question then. If you, how much of a pay cut would you be willing to take to work remote? Would you take a 20% cut, no cut, 50% cut? What would you be willing to take?
That's an interesting question. Um, I mean, depends on what you want in your life. When I was just starting out, like early in my career, I would never want to be remote because I wanted to network. I wanted to like learn as much as possible, soak up the company culture and network, make connections. So I wouldn't want to be remote. But as you get more experience and as you've like worked for years in the office, you kind of want to get a bit more time to have freedom. Like you don't want to be like stuck in one city all your life, and you want to be able to explore the world. And there's only so many
Hmm.
holidays you can take, and you also don't want to retire, right? Um, so at a certain point, I would say probably in late 20s, 30s, and then yeah, like I think pay cut probably like yeah 50% pay cut to have that
50%?
freedom right? Like just to be able to actually see the world and really like take in the beauty and the magic of all the world has instead of just like every day is a routine and you're just making money.
Definitely. Let's do let's conclude this experiment here because I want this to be clear to the audience. We tweet about this, but 200K versus 100K. What would you take? 200 in office or 100K remote?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about later in my career, yeah, I would go for the 100K remote.
Only later in the career.
Yeah, if I'm just starting out, like first year, second year, I definitely want to soak up as much of the office as possible. Just like just like network with people and just like learn, make new connections because I think being remote is very isolating. Like you're just meeting the same five folks on Zoom calls, and they have apps like Donut now that just like sets you up with a random coffee chat with a stranger over Zoom, but it's not the same.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that. It's a very like goody two shoes answer, I guess. I mean, dude, you're 22, you're fresh out of school or something. 100K remote, 200K in the office. You're telling me you're gonna go network? That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, I think
I
it's
get it. I get it. I get the ambitious perspective, but it's funny.
yeah. I mean, I think maybe other people are different, but at least for me, I definitely, yeah, it's like at a different time in your life, in your career, you appreciate different things.
No, I do get it. I do get it. Kind of, and people say that about a lot of skill sets. Actually, like if you want to learn to code or something like that, let's just say learn to code. Maybe work on site for a year or two, so you have an in-person mentor that can
Exactly.
give you feedback faster when you hit bugs or you're trying to learn whatever certain skill sets.
Hmm.
And then once you have it down and you feel comfortable working remote, start applying to remote jobs and take your skill set remote.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly though, I if I could have just gotten 2K a month online when I was say 18, that would have been crazy. That would have been very life changing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, people definitely do it differently. Like I think that's the beauty of it. You can like pick your own adventure.
Yeah, definitely. um where were we before I started grilling you about salaries? Well, I'll finish the experiment then. So let's just say 1 million in person or 500K remote.
yeah, I think, I mean, 500K remote would still be pretty good. I mean, with taxes, that 1 million doesn't, that, puts you in a higher tax bracket as well, probably. No, wait. But yeah. Um, yeah, I think, and after a certain amount of money, the money becomes less of an incentive and free time becomes more of a incentive. Like if
Absolutely.
you're, yeah,
And
like
then
if you're
let's
unhealthy, health is like the most important thing. If you have no money, money's the most important thing, right? So I feel like at the 100K versus a million thing, then you probably have enough money either way.
right, it's like a declining marginal benefit per dollar
I think
type of
so.
thing.
Yeah.
But let's take the other side then. So 40K in person or 20K remote per year.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really not that much. I mean, whew, it depends on the person. I think for me, yeah, like if I don't know if I would be able to make it work with that amount of money. So maybe I'll like be in person for a year, save up some money. We'll see. And then
You think you would take 40K in person?
probably, yeah, like assuming I need the money, then I would then be in person, save up, you know, and then when I don't need the money so much, then I'll travel.
I'm surprised you say that because couldn't you just go to, say, Southeast Asia or something, live for 500 bucks a month or less in Thailand, and you'd actually probably end up saving more of that 20K than someone trying to spend 40K in the US?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I haven't done the math on that, but yeah, maybe that could actually net to be more, net out to be more. Yeah.
And just think of the experience too, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
what's the difference between saving an extra 500 bucks a month or something, like just for the life experience?
Yeah, for sure. So something yeah, to figure out, like if I could make that work. Um, but yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
And so, what countries are the biggest? Because you said people can kind of filter by country. Is the US the biggest, or is it someone else?
Yeah, the US is still the biggest. I think we have about 40% of our users in the US, and I think it's just because we started there. Um, yeah,
What are the top three?
let me take a look. Top three. So we have a lot in Spain.
Hmm.
So the US, then Spain, um, and then we have the UK as well.
Hmm. Why do you think
Yeah.
Spain?
I think Spain is very affordable. It's kind of like Mexico. Um, right. It's like close, has a lot of good infrastructure. I'm surprised we don't have more in Mexico at the moment. Let's see. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, US is the biggest, and then we have Spain, UK.
So Spain is the Mexico of Europe.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of Americans also love to be in Spain just because they like to be in Europe, and Spain is super affordable. And we also have a lot of Europeans on the app. Europeans love traveling.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, Spain is pretty good. Um, Damn, there was something I was going to ask you specifically about this. I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
It's all good.
Well,
Um,
I hope Latin America is pretty high. As I'm sure you know, the hubs would be, Cancun, Playa del Carmen area, Tulum, Mexico City, Buenos Aires, Medellin.
yeah,
Those would be maybe like your top five of digital nomad cities in Latin America.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's see how it evolves. I mean, it also fluctuates, right? Like if suddenly it's trendy to go to Japan, as I see a lot in social media, we might have more of them in Japan. Um,
I have been seeing a
so
lot of Japan lately. I think it's cheap. I think it's been like declining a lot relative to the US dollar.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see. Kind of. I mean, that's the thing about location is like I tend not to focus too much on looking at that data just because I know that our users are always moving around. So, and just the same as me too, right? Like I'll pretty much, within like 12 hours, I might be like around the globe.
My question was actually going to be about cost of living. So, obviously, you were in SF before, one of the most expensive places to live in the world. Now you're traveling mostly in Europe. Are you saving money while you're traveling relative to what you would spend per month in the US?
Um, Actually, it can be quite pricey in Europe just because I would have to get an Airbnb versus in the US, I would actually just pay a long-term lease. So I'm not sure how much I'm actually saving in Europe. I don't think I'm saving that much. I think if I were in Southeast Asia, I can definitely be saving a lot more. Um, yeah, I like the weather in Europe more. Also, I feel like I'm not the best in the tropics.
Okay. What's your go to spot in Europe?
Um, I love nature, so like Germany, Poland, are really nice. Um, love the beach as well. So Portugal and Spain are really good as well.
Hmm. Are you going to work
Yeah,
towards residency in Europe? Is that on your radar at all? Being
yeah.
like
I
a
think it
resident,
makes
being
it.
able to stay longer?
Yeah, I think it makes it more convenient. I mean, I'm trying to collect them all, right?
Are you?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of it's kind of a fun thing to do.
Well, that's what we do. That's what we try to help people do is get residencies around the world, have a plan B, have multiple passports, multiple documents, bank accounts around the world, and
Yeah,
so forth.
absolutely.
So is
Like
that
you have more than one credit card, right? Like you have more than one pair of shoes. It's yeah, for me it totally makes sense.
hmm Did you get U.S. citizenship just through a naturalization process or from birth?
Yeah. Naturalization.
'Cause- So you put in your time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you, what are yours citizenships?
Canada and U.S. as well, but both from birth.
Cool, cool.
So I
I
don't
mean,
know
it's
what it's
super
like
cool.
to
Like a lot of
study
people
the.
also have like ancestry, so they can also get other ones. It's really cool.
Absolutely, yeah. We help people with ancestry in Europe and in Latin America, help them get second passports based on where their parents were born. Because a lot of people don't realize like, they'll grow up in Canada or the US, but their parents are both from somewhere else, but they don't have the passport of their parents' country. They'll say, "Oh, my parents from Jamaica." Like that's a useless passport, and they just don't have it. But
Mm.
there's no downside really, and so I think people should get every passport by descent that you can get, as long as it's not like a sanctioned country, obviously,
Yeah,
which is maybe 10 countries,
right.
Cuba and stuff like that, Iran. But For the other 190 countries, I don't care if it's like a Madagascar passport, like it's going to have some benefits and there's really no downside to having it. So people should claim every citizenship they can as and then obviously actively try to obtain more.
Yeah, yeah. At least for me, I definitely think it's kind of cool.
You should, if you don't have it already, on your site, have like maybe a emoji icon for citizenships, nationalities,
Oh, we
and
we
so that people
do.
can show multiple.
Yeah, yeah, we do. We actually do have nationality on your profile, so you can have multiple. I'm a huge proponent of like displaying and like showing your nationality because I feel like who we are as people. One of the biggest signals is your nationality, right? Like it just helps people understand like your values a bit better. It helps people understand your
Mm,
worldviews a bit better. So I'm a huge fan
mm.
of, yeah, just like, you know, showing like, which countries you consider you're a part of.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's really a reflection of your values to some extent.
Definitely, definitely.
That is pretty deep. And yeah, there was something as we kind of get wrapping up, but there was something you said earlier that also impacted me as well, kind of similar to this, which is how you kind of drew the picture of how, put it this way, 150 years ago before trains, travel was much more isolated and so forth. And so really just in the past 150 years with every transportation innovation, so trains and then cars and so forth, planes, that things are just getting more and more originally like countrywide and now international. And things have just become so international where it's just so much more common than it was a decade ago or 20 years ago to um, maybe be born in a different country than your parents, right?
Yeah. Like just imagine, back in the day, Benjamin Franklin, I read his biography and it was so
Same.
hard for him to like just go from England to the US, like his parents. And
Well, he ran away to Philly from Boston, and that was
yeah,
like that was like switching countries, going from Boston
yeah,
to Philly back in the day.
yeah. And then like the voyage from the US back to Europe, it just took like so long and like and
Hmm.
I think then he stayed in Europe for years and years because it's such a huge trek and now it's just like what, how many hours? It's like 7 hours or something like that.
Yeah, probably less. Yeah, I think the boat
Yeah.
would be like almost a month. So yeah, I mean, so really, people do like to complain about culture clash and like migrants and stuff like that. And obviously, some crazy stuff has been going on in with the US border and so forth. But really the macro picture is that there's just going to be more and more clashing or like mixing, really. Mixing is a better word, of different ethnicities and nationalities and stuff. Just by default, it's just like accelerating in a very exponential way in terms of just like the globalization, you could say, and maybe what you would call is like the flow of human capital and the flow of the migration of humans around the world is just absolutely accelerating, and it's only going to get, I think, exponentially greater, like the amount of just moving around the world that people do. So
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing so many of these visas pop up, right? Just like allowing more freedom of movement.
yep, nomad visas and really all categories of visa. um Cool. Well, Tiger, I think let's leave it at that. I only have a couple of minutes left here. So why don't you take this time, maybe give a message to the audience, maybe give a shout out again to FairyTrail and yeah, whatever you want to communicate.
Cool. Well, yeah, I invite all of you to try out FairyTrail. And yeah, you can find it on the App Store or Google Play Store. Just search Fairy. Trail, one word. And yeah, you can make connections with other like-minded people who love traveling the world.
That's it. So this has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Thank you to Taige Xhang from FairyTrail, and thank you to the audience for listening. Maybe you're listening on X, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Wherever you're at, please be sure to subscribe. We're putting out 2 episodes a week, tons of great guests, and you won't want to miss it. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by BitRefill. BitRefill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. Visit bitrefill.com for more information. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. Introducing Rolf Haltza's Paycheck Multiplication Layering Method, a revolutionary approach that redefines the traditional career path. This is Rolf's new Done With You program, where he'll work with you to implement job stacking for yourself. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, are you ready to step out of the shadows of job insecurity and step into a world of career abundance? Then just click the link in the description of this episode, book a call with Rolf, and start walking the path of unleashing your earning potential with job stacking.